Okay, we're going to start the March Robert Frost Hoot, and it's in memory of Jessica Sanchez, who's one of our board members we lost last year. And the feature is Andover High School. Will be captained by Harry Durso there. And so we'll have that first.
All right, everyone. See, what I love about life is that tonight, when everybody is hoisting the flag, the white flag, everybody's saying stay home, be afraid, don't go out, high-risk people, stay home. Everybody's here. This is the biggest turnout we've had in years. Doesn't that say something about how great we are? That we defied all the odds, right? We came out for poetry in Lawrence. That's big, okay? So welcome tonight. This is a hoot for the Robert Frost Foundation, and these gentlemen here are kind enough to run one of the greatest poet organizations in the country here. And every year they invite Andover High School kids here to do a poetry night on one of their hoots. So in other words, the second Tuesday of the month, from September to June, they have a poetry reading. And a couple of nights during the year, Mr. Gorman here from Lawrence High comes in June, and we come in March. And those are devoted to high school kids, students. And one of the things we found, this is our 11th year in a row that we've been doing this. So let's have a round of applause to Robert Frost Foundation. I always said, if you want to know how the world is, ask a teenager, because they know. Am I right, girls back there? I think I'm right. All right. All right, so welcome to the Robert Frost Foundation's 11th annual Andover High School Poetry Night, featuring the teachers and students of Andover High School. And tonight is dedicated to the memory of Jessica Sanchez. Jessica was our executive director who unexpectedly passed away last year, right after this event. And it was like literally I was talking to her on the phone, and then she disappeared, and unfortunately she passed away. And we're all heartbroken. And we had just finished having a memorial for Mark Shore, and then we had to have another one for Jessica. So I wanted this to be in her name tonight, to celebrate her life. By doing these things is something she believed in. She wanted poetry to be done here. She wanted the students to come here. She believed in the Robert Frost Foundation. So I want us tonight to dedicate our experience here to her, okay? All right, I want to thank a few people before we start. Dawn Michaud, raise your hand. Dawn? Dawn's sponsored us for 11 years in a row. Let's hear applause. 11 years in a row, and now he's on a new venture, and he started a new company. The old garage is faded in the distance, and now we're in a brand new thing. Let's wish him all the luck in the world for his new and blessings in his new adventure. All right, let's hear it. All right, I also want to thank Joe Spanos right here, his wife Bethany, and their production company for doing this video. This video is seen all year on cable in Methuen, Lawrence, and Andover. It's on YouTube. A lot of people see it. I'm very famous at the meat counter at Market Basket because of this production. All right? I'm aiming for a little higher group activity, but right now I'm pretty good on the market. So thank you, Joe, for doing it. 11 years for him, too. All right? And then there's Eric Pellerin. Eric, raise your hand. Eric Pellerin. There'd be nothing here tonight without Eric Pellerin. He does everything at Andover High. All his students come. He's one of the greatest teachers I've ever worked with, along with Joe here. And it's an honor every year for him to say, Harry, I got it. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. We're there. He's here tonight with his students. Thank you, Eric Pellerin. Thank you. Okay, so I want to start off tonight with this poem I wrote for Jessica. It's called The Forever Place. She loved poetry and the poets who wrote them. She would hold a book of poems close to her heart after reciting one, as if the words could leap off the page directly into her soul. And the poets around her knew they did when they saw their words like a lit candle in a tabernacle warming her smile with her silent praise of both reverence and glee. But now she is gone at an unreasonable time, leaving behind a string of whys and sadness that no poet's words can answer or dispel. Their only comfort is that their words will remain in her soul, lighting her way to the forever place, and that they will remind her that the poets who are around her will love her forever, and that their future words will also reach her in a better world where she can hold them in her heart and they can again make her smile again. That's it. Thank you, Jessica Nesbitt Sanchez. Can't say enough. All right? I'm going to do one poem myself, and then we'll get into the program. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, great.
Because everybody came tonight and took a little bit of courage, I wrote this. It's called Will. Fear can kill. It destroys us, working on the brain, putting adrenaline into our body as a fix that drowns us with doubt and self-pity. It ruminates and destroys our cells. It overwhelms our intellect. It destroys our faith. But it does nothing to control what is real in the world. Reality is often cruel by nature and should never be ignored, but it should not be feared. Our reality is part of us. It is our world. We are in it. So fear must disappear as a do-nothing emotion. It has to be replaced by courage and determination. Every breath we make, every heartbeat is caused by our will. Will is stronger than fear. It will get us through the complexity of a troubled world. The saints had will. Our heroes had will. Our country had will. We have will. It is better than fear. It has more colors. It is a bigger sword. If we choose not to be afraid, it comes out of its sheath easily and cuts deep to destroy the only emotion that can destroy us without warning, with concerns and worries that will cut us and make us bleed. Let's have will and not fear. Will makes our heart beat once again. It will tell our children that the monsters we see can be sent away quickly as long as we conquer our fear and will ourselves to a better day. One of my doctors lived during the bombing of London. He was a child, and the bombs hit his neighborhood, and he didn't want to go to school the next day. And his mother said, no, you have to go to school. You have to go to school. So she got dressed, and she pushed him out the door, and he went down the street, and there was this giant bomb that destroyed the house next door to him. And he said he was so scared, he was shaken. But he remembered what his mother said. He went to school that day, and on the way back, they played around the bomb, which I don't think was a good idea, but he got over his fear. So let's all get over our fear tonight about what's going on. The fact you're here tonight means that you have. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start out tonight with a little something. John Fawcett was an Andover High teacher. He's retired. He's down in Florida now. And he wanted us to read two of his mother's poems. Now, John's been married to his wife Ann for 47 years. He has 2 children and 5 grandchildren. He's a retired Andover school teacher for 32 years. His mother's name was Esterina Teresa Alessandrini Fawcett Iannacci. She's the daughter of Italian immigrants Giovanni and Grace Alessandrini. Mother to 5 children, grandmother to 10 grandchildren, and great-grandmother to 5 children. Her formal education ended in her sophomore year of high school. She had to help support the family during World War II. She worked at Fort Devens machining a cartridge chamber for the rifles used by combat troops. There is much more to her story that is revealed in her poetry. She wrote poetry from 1936 until 2005. In that summer of years, she kept all of her work private. Upon her death, she requested that her work be published. The next 2 poems that follow are excerpts from that publication, the artistic expressions of a feisty woman. And I've asked 2 Andover High students to come up and read those 2 poems. Can they come up? Let's see. I have their names. Alan and Sarah. Come on, Alan, Sarah. Thank you.
So this is A Single Red Rose by Estorina. A single red rose bloomed in my garden today. It waved with the warm breeze's flight. I thought, there's a friend, a single red rose. Its green to me was so bright. Yes, a single red rose bloomed in my garden today, all alone, held in fragrance and light. A beautiful rose, a single red rose, I thought, this is precious, a privileged sight.
Good.
This one's called My Friends. My friends are flowers, trees and sunny hours, pretty skies, refreshing showers, dancing hills and birds who speak to singing words. My friends may call me any time, I answer them in love and rhyme.
Good. I think when we think of the Year of the Woman and this and that, we have to think of individual lives. You know, someone said to me, this woman kept it private. I thought you were going to attack me, Dad. I think when you see a person's life, how great a person's life is, just by those statements, that she held it so precious to let it go now, and that she shared it with us now tonight, I think it's good. You know, it's a sentiment that, very innocent to me, that she thought of this in a way to write about it, and that her son loved her so much to write about her in such a loving way. You know, 2 of his sons went to Harvard, and they've done very well in life. He grew up in the streets of Lowell. His mother sacrificed for him, and so it's a good story. All right, so I thought that was very nice to do that tonight. Okay, now we're going to start with the kids, students, because they're seniors, so they're gonna, we got to respect. All right, Sophia, who's a senior at Andover High School. Come on up here, Sophia.
Okay, this is called Night Sky. Sorry. Night Sky. I look up, and there are only 3 stars in the night sky. It is as if the darkness is hiding all the life, the dancing stars, the watchful eyes, the natural beauty, and I realize I have been left alone. But before I saw that, I was drowning in corrupted euphoria. We would sip strawberry drinks, red dripping from lips and arms, staining everything we touched. In sync with each other, growing forever intertwined, our eyes met and read our shared minds and heard sleeping breaths and dreamed of shiny futures. Everyone knew our laughter. It was as connected as we were. Together we would go places. Alone we shut ourselves behind closed doors. We were squeezing, strangling each other. Soon we were out of sync with ourselves, with the world. We were blind to what we did, but I made the call and you were gone. The universe is punishing me. It sees what I've done and it knows what I deserve. It's robbing me of one of those lonely stars. As I watch, it morphs into a faraway plane with a flash of a red light and a drift away from reality. It disappears. There's more darkness than light, 2 distant stars in the sky instead of 3. Later, wearing masks and climbing on rooftops, I toss money into thin air, memories onto the back burner, experiences into the bushes. I take creative liberties when I tell a story. I choose my audience with care and precision, kicking people out of the stadium when they get too close, and even sometimes knowingly letting the wrong people on stage with me, even when they ruin the show and the audience boos them as much as I do. But soon as I forget the taste of strawberry and that dance routine we learned that time in that basement of that building, I can see new faces coming closer. I can tolerate a hug when it's time. Finally, old nightmares are replaced with new memories, and I take control of my own life. When I look up again, the sky is crowded with stars, winking at their success and twinkling with happiness because I can finally see them.
Good job. Alan, do you have another poem? Come on. You didn't think you were going to get it off that easy. Come on. You're a champion. Let's go.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so my poem is called Canned Peaches. My grandfather handed me canned peaches, an empty can, which sat on stale beaches. Beige sands leak from giant white bags. A little girl walks, but her plastic shovel drags. Red seaweed strangles and permeates the ocean. Unnatural, but the townsfolk won't make a commotion. The tide creeps upon the 100-rock barrier. Stilts built under every house become warier. The waters were once an iridescent blue. Clear skies, seagulls overhead flew. No plastic had the ocean spat. What happened to that? The sea is crying, why can't you see? The sea is dying, we did this, you and me. That is why we must accept the reaction, because humans did things to their satisfaction. The waves will grow taller, the beaches smaller. Mother Nature will not tolerate living in squalor. No storm shelter will protect from this tornado, because all humans will reap what we sow.
Good job. Okay, wow. Allie G.
My poem is called Circumstance. It is important that children's clothing has pockets. They have important things to store. Sticky fingers when it's cold, fern salad they made before school, and, most importantly, rocks. The little ones they find laying around, different colors, different shapes, the ones that spark when you hit them together, the ones where they remember exactly where they came from. These rocks need somewhere to stay. Pockets are the perfect place. Except when they need to be washed and mother yells because there are rocks in the washer. Again. But see, the rocks are important to kids. They can be traded for different rocks, for silly bands, even for those little food-shaped erasers. That girl with rocks in her driveway is very happy. But for the boy with no rocks in his apartment, I found these all by myself, she'll say to him. Finders keepers, she'll say. It's really not that hard, she'll say. As if the boy also has a driveway full of rocks. As if all of her hard work would be ruined by sharing. As if she was even responsible for all those rocks being in her driveway and in the pockets of her clothes.
Good. Thank you. That's wonderful. Giovanna. Close enough? All right.
Hi, I'm not classy, so I didn't print it out. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on, come on.
This poem is called Good Night. Though my bones and flesh stand here, my mind has gone elsewhere, following the illusions of tomorrow, exiled in the alcoves of my own imagination, made prisoner by the foundations of my being, relentlessly banging on the walls of my captivity. But I did not come to my saving. Trapped in delusions of ease, apathetic to my own despair, I lay for days, waiting for my arrival, expecting the savior that never comes, the almighty me, the only one capable of performing the sacred ritual, pulling myself out of me, separating what has long been connected, me and the monster that has kept me shut. But what if I never come? What if the beast has already consumed me? What if all that's left of me is a constant reminder of my absence? What will I do once I finally realize the agonizing truth of my existence? What will I do once I have come to terms with my despair? Was I ever really me, or simply a product of your delusional mind? Perfected for time, manufactured by demand of a lonely heart that stands cursed by time, it fails to withstand its own illusions. But you were just as perfect as I want you to be. I construct your fears and fabricate your dreams. You exist in my mind and I exist in a bit, hoping that one day you may love me a bit. You were created by my need of you, by my need of me. It took me time, but I have come to realize that you are but the figure in my dreams that calls me softly in the morning breeze, so soothing it could be mistaken by the blowing wind. But my windows are closed, for it does not matter how vigorously the walls of my house may shake. The matter of fact is, you are now my fate. You are now real. And yet I fear your existence. I fear never being loved and I fear never loving. What happens then? When fear has overcome the essence of my being, what am I but fear? What is fear but me? I have been molded, shaped and reshaped by my own misconceptions, by the fears I have imagined, the things I have hoped to achieve by the constructs of my own mind. How is fear stronger than me? How am I weaker than fear? You run away, and I stay, perfectly still while you sway among daffodils in the milkway. But maybe I was wrong. This might have just been a bad day. Good night.
Very good. Nelia.
Okay, my poem is called Recalling Memories is like being a deer caught in headlights. It lingers in the smog. We know it's there, recall its touch, but simply cannot see. A clutter of thoughts float to our minds, fog rising from the rain-pummeled ground, obscuring the thought we long for most. obscuring the figure who we just held. We shout to the haze, "Where are you? Where are you?" to only invite the fog in. It fills our lungs, presses against our temples, and runs cool beads down the length of us. All is in vain, you realize. Hope is lost, the memory gone. Was it a dream? Was it truly ever alive? So you miss the headlights, the impact, the punishment of your own, for your own mind.
Let's hear from Sarah. Sarah? Where? Well, but she's going to go again, isn't she? Come on, Sarah, come on. Give her applause. Maybe she'll come up. Come on. She's not coming up? All right, Louisa.
I also just have a phone with me. The title is a work in progress, but it's called Lingering Thoughts. I often get this feeling, this thought, that no one really wants me, that no one really likes me, that no one really enjoys the way my voice sounds over the pitter-patter of their keyboard, that no one really likes the way my feet carry all of the weight of the experiences I've outgone, or the bounce at my knee and the tremble in my hands, the stutter in my speech and the breath that slightly escapes my mouth. And it scares me. It's not the kind of scare that makes me shiver and quake and want to scream and run, burst my lungs through an ear-splitting shriek, wave my arms through the air, call for help. It's the kind of scare that never really leaves me. The notion is always there, somewhere in the back of my head, whispering to me at all hours. The voice builds like great, terrifying symphonies, quiet at first, so that only in my weakest moments I hear the buzz and hush of a small, lone thought. Over time, the voice builds as it adds harmonies on the third and fifth. Soon enough, there's a choir of voices demeaning me, with basses, tenors, altos, and sopranos, the whole lot, coming together to make beautifully constructed chords which build phrases. I have no choice but to listen, hoping the attention will calm the choir in chaos, but they never quiet or dull in intensity. In fortissimo, they chime and ring and rattle my brain, twisting my thoughts and thinking. I've been immersed, engulfed, so I cave in. As I sit alone, the melody decrescendos in the dark alongside me. The piece coming to a triumphant end in the comfort of the undermined silence.
Is it Jorge? Come on, come on. You have one?
I have a couple.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
So there, yes. Right. So it doesn't make any sense, but it's like whatever. I realize that they're both to a beat, but I can't say it because I run out of breath. So this is kind of the perfect environment to say it.
Where's Jim? Jim.
Because I can say it as slowly as I want.
Why don't you give him a beat?
No. We good. We good.
All right. I don't know what it is. All right.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. Here we go. Y'all stupid. I'll look to juke a new whip. So lose it. Use this. The method, y'all useless. I'm moody. The bass hit old news like a racist. Face it, these sheep don't compare to me. It's fair to see. Stop trying to act cool. When I rap, it's a rap. When y'all rap, it's a fantasy. My flow carefree, I know you want, but I don't share be. Time to escape to the secret layer. Batman without a mask on. They shout for clout until the last song. Your facts wrong. Fat long depicts of a fatty in a black thong. They had me in the first half. A thirst trap with a cursed laugh where your purse sat. Snatched off your back before you rap. Lashed a bomb hatch. That's it.
All right. It's all right. We'll be all right. We're all adult people, right? I think so, aren't we?
They can tolerate Sean Hannity.
We're all right. We're all right. That was everybody so far. Let's have an applause for everybody so far. I need everybody's last name, so don't go without giving me your names, okay? All right. Okay, everybody happy so far? We're doing good? All right, very good. That was excellent. Okay. I'm going to introduce my friend Leslie Ganley, who's one of the greatest teachers at Andover High, next to Eric and Bill and the guys there. She's an English teacher and special needs teacher. She's been my friend for so many years, and I can't say enough about her. Thank you, Leslie.
I want to thank Harry for all the lessons he's taught me and so many other teachers over the years, and continues to teach us. He shares his poetry with me, which I'm able to then share with my students, and it means a lot to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
But I am not a poet, so I stole something from Poetry 180, which Eric lent to me. But this really reflects how I feel as a teacher, I must say. And it's entitled by Tom Wayman, Did I Miss Anything? Nothing. When we realized you weren't here, we sat with our hands folded on our desks in silence for the full 2 hours. Oh, actually everything. I gave an extra exam worth 40% of the grade for this term and assigned some reading due today, on which I'm about to hand out a quiz worth 50%. No, nothing. None of the content of this course has value or meaning. Take as many days off as you like. Any activities we undertake as a class, I assure you, will not matter, either to you or me, and are without purpose. Everything. A few minutes after we began last time, a shaft of light suddenly descended, and an angel or other heavenly being appeared and revealed to us what each woman or man must do to attain divine wisdom in this life and the hereafter. This is the last time the class will meet before we disperse to bring the good news to all people on earth. Yet nothing. When you were not present, how could anything significant happen? Everything. Contained in this classroom is a microcosm of human experience assembled for you to query and examine and ponder. This is not the only place such an opportunity has been gathered, but it was one place, and you weren't here. Thanks.
I think one of the nicest things I can say is when you have all these teachers here tonight who were together for 10, 20, 30 years in the classroom, and every day we interacted with each other, every day we dealt with good days and bad days, but we always had a respect for one another. That was just crucial. I haven't found it in other places in my life. I worked in entertainment for many years. I worked around different things, but I never found that respect that I found at that school. So I thank all of you tonight, Joe, everybody. These guys were the greatest teachers. I mean, every day they delivered it, 100% every day. And I was honored to be with them, as long as I have been. So, Bill Hecht, you're up. Special needs teacher, but he's special anyway.
Thanks for all the students who are here. I don't know any of you, but it takes a certain amount of chops to get up here in front of people you don't know and read stuff you wrote, because that's kind of exposing how you feel and how you think, and we recognize that, and I appreciate that. And to the students I don't know, the only thing I will say about my two colleagues that are sitting here is we all know that the shit gets deep sometimes, and those are two people, and I'm one of them. When the shit gets deep, you can stop us and talk, and we'll listen. Okay? I'll speak up. How's this? All right. I have two things. One I wrote and one I cribbed from somebody else. To the writers in the audience, writer's block. I read the good stuff in wonder and awe. Exasperated, I ask, if only I could, how do they? Then, in frustration, I turn back to that intimidating white desert laying before me and once again try to bring life to its vast and confining expanse.
Good job. Is that yours?
And then, yeah, that's the one I wrote. And then here's it's more of a thought than anything else, but there's some words from an old friend of mine. And every once in a while when things get deep, I kind of think of these, and I would like you to think of them as well. May we never find space so vast, planets so cold, heart and mind so empty that we cannot fill them with love and warmth.
Excellent. Eric Pellerin. I used Pearl.
I used Pearl.
Honest, I did.
First, I wanted to thank all of my students for coming.
All
I know
right.
you guys came for me. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm closing in on 50, and I've been thinking a lot about, memoirs. And there's a singer-songwriter from the Magnetic Fields named Stephen Merritt, and he put out an album called 50 Song Memoir, where he had a song to represent every year of his life. And I basically lifted that for myself, thinking I'll do one for myself. I'll have every year, I'll reflect, I'll write poetry. It kind of forces me to keep writing. And this is my poem for 1979. I was in kindergarten. And it's based on a dramatic situation where we used to line up every morning outside at the Shanahan School that's no longer there, and we would wait to get inside. And there was this boy standing in front of me with this hat with this big pom-pom, and I needed to pull it. And this is called 1979, Hanging by a Thread. They line us up before the bell rings, specimens aged 5 through 8, accepting our mother's farewell glances, passing through their stargate, leaving us all behind to dwell in fragile timelines to wait. The others seem happy to me, as if they always belonged here, as if cell blocks make one feel free. I, by contrast, only feel fear watching the alphas' playground killing spree, making their marks all cavalier. I spy a weaker boy who cries for me. He's wearing itchy clothes, handmade. Something of a moth flies through him, among all the posturing, factory-made kids whose collective eyes face forward to this bell foreboding. It's foreboding our collective fear to enter, to meet Miss Baker, where I learn I am a gifted painter, a true artist free to discern how I am odd among plainer ones who know they were made to be born. Leaves change, snow falls, and this kid still cries while we wait in line outside in the cold. I am behind him, and my eyes behold this pom-pom taking hold of me, hypnotizes as it flies through the air, this orb of mold, of wool and fluff, hanging by a thread a mile long, who hollers to me, "Be tough, just a tug. Screw this kid in his dumb hat that smells like pee." And he turns as it's pulled from his head, and the thread cascades down before me. I will never forget that look, his sad eyes pleading with me. Why? We're brothers, you and I. And he took the pom-pom back and began to cry. And as the bell called Miss B, who took one look at me and said, "Inside." There's more. So I spend the day with the principal. Sabin, Principal Sabin, stout in his white shirt sleeves, yellowed pit stains, piercing coral blue eyes. He glares, disdain, screams, heaves, "Shut up!" The crying boy all alone now is me. And I believe I deserve this worn-out chair, his stare, and mine at the wall clock. His head turns my head round by the hair, sits silently till 12 o'clock. That's forever. I say, "I'm scared." "I don't care," he says. "Think about what you've done until I get back at the end of the day." And what could I say? I nodded. I wept. Thought of the attack, like he said. But I don't remember that day. I assume I sat there crying. What is interesting is the memory returning back today. Why now? Why do I remember now entering a voting booth decades later, this boy? as I select candidates. Various bullies searching for truth in a broken system. People going nuts, but in this booth I remember my youth. And where is he now? What does he teach his son about truth? Does he have one? Maybe none. But he is my brother, and so I cast a vote for another talking head and look toward the horizon. Outside I see the signs, supporters facing one another. I put on my coat and fasten the button just before it becomes undone, and I stop short, and I toss the button, but keep the thread instead. And I will place it under my pillow and dream that it floats through the air to my brother Ted. And as he leaves his voting box, he will redeem it. And as he fastens the loose button to his coat, he will know this thread is from me to protect him from the cold.
So happy that everybody came here tonight. I just think it's so great. I'm just having such a good time. How about you guys? Oh, yeah. I'm having applause for everybody. Come on. All right, Kate, you coming? Kate Hernandez, class of, what is it now again? 94. Okay, Kate Hernandez.
So I also didn't write my own, so I'm gonna steal from someone else. I'm tonight stealing from John Ashbery. So this is around the rough and ragged rocks, the ragged rascal rudely ran. I think a lot about it, think quite a lot about it, the omnipresent possibility of being interrupted, while what I stand for is still almost a bare canvas, a few traceries that may be fibers, perhaps not even these, but shadows, hallucinations. And it is well then to recall that this track is the outer rim of a flat crust, dimensionless except for its poor, parched surface, the face one raises to God. Not the rich, dark composite we keep to ourselves, carpentered together any old way, coffee from an old tin can, a belch of daylight, people leaving the beach. If I could write it and also write about it, the interruption, rudeness on the face of it, but who knows anything about our behavior? Forget what it is you're coming out of, always into something like a landscape where no one has ever walked because they're too busy. Excitedly you open your rhyming dictionary. It has begun to snow.
Are there any other students from Andover High here tonight that haven't read? Raise your hand. Anybody came in late? Anybody? Any teachers came in late? Okay. All right, I wanted to do just two more short poems. These are from the guys at the garage. Don Michaud had a garage called Don's Auto Care. And the word in that title is care, because what he did was take care of all his employees. And he did it for many, many years. We care for him very much because he really took care of us. And I want two of the employees to get up and read tonight. One is Dan Rice. Dan, get up here.
If I can find it.
It's a big moment, Dan. Come on, will you?
If I can find it. Just let me get home. I confess that I lied. I just went out for a moonlight ride. Then all of a sudden, they saw a great flash. Oh God, please help us. We are going to crash. July 4th, a young teenager and his friend and her son were traveling northbound on Route 95 in Wells, Maine, headed home after a long day at the fireworks. The car was filled with laughter and excitement. The passenger fell asleep while her son slept soundly in the back seat. The driver, a 21-year-old boy, was humming along to the tones of the radio, and his arm was hanging out the window for some fresh air. As the car sped along, headed for home, the young man and his friends were heading to drop them off when everything changed. All of a sudden, the vehicle lost control and rolled over 5 to 6 times until it came to a rest on the southbound side of the highway. The passengers were all startled. They were yelling, and the blood was everywhere. The young man who was driving asked if the passengers were okay. They replied, "Yes. How are you?" That's when the driver blacked out. The witnesses who saw it did stop to help. The driver kicked through the windshield and helped his 2 friends out of the vehicle. All of a sudden, all you could hear was sirens blazing, lights blazing. The New Hampshire State Emergency personnel responded to that crash, and each individual was taken by fast ambulance to an area hospital. The driver looked up at the nurse in the ambulance and asked if the other 2 were okay. All she said was, "Sir, we got you." And we got them. At the hospital, a New Hampshire State trooper came in and asked the driver a few questions if he could breathalyze test him. The driver said yes. Once the trooper was done with his examination, the trooper brought in a brown paper bag. In the bag was the driver's blood-stained Bible. The trooper said, "Son, you should have been dead in that car crash. It was almost fatal." But he said God was watching over you. The driver said yes, thank you, and he fell asleep. Over the years and the months ahead, the driver and his occupants had a very long recovery and still are hurting to this day. The lesson in this story is, if you are tired, don't drive drunk. If you're driving under the influence of alcohol, do not drive. If you're texting, do not drive. There's the account of what happened here. Have you ever heard of the song 3 Wooden Crosses by Randy Travis? On the right side of that highway, where the crash happened on the left side, is three wooden crosses. Why there are not 4 of them, heaven only knows. You and I are needed here on earth as much as it was. And it was the driver's fault that night. He fell asleep at the wheel going about 90 miles an hour. This story is sad, unpleasant, yet true, so young people, take heed. It could have been you. Almost there. You and I are needed here on earth. That's why God Almighty spared my life that night, because I was the driver, and He gave me a second chance at life.
All right. Wow, I didn't see that coming, Dan. All right, Steve, are you ready? Are you going to go or what? Yeah, I'll go. All right, our last poem tonight, Steve Maddie from the Garage. And then I'm going to turn it over for the open mic. Thank you, everybody, tonight. I know we're going long, but what a great night of poetry. I appreciated every line of it. I love everybody here tonight. Maybe a couple exceptions, but I do. So, and I thank Cafe Azteca for having us tonight. So I'll let Steve finish up for us.
How we doing, Steve? I feel like I have to bend down with this thing. This is actually by Daniel Rice. I can find it. Okay. That's not the one. Tick tock, tick tock. Life is counting down on your internal clock. Memories that feel as if they occurred yesterday turn to flashes as I lose my spot. Into flashes of moments that seem to fade away. People you once knew walk but without a clue. The times once shared exist as you were never there. Years fly away, friends die, and you never know when you'll say your last goodbye. I'm losing momentum here. Oh, how I wish I could turn back time, spend it with loved ones, once and cherish what once wasn't mine. Or to go back even more, being a kid in a candy store. How I miss the way I used to be, used to feel on Christmas Day when Santa was real. But back to reality, back to today. Family is scarce, memories continue to fade away. Tick tock, tick tock. How I wish I can control this clock. The end.
I'm just overwhelmed with everybody. Thank you for coming. I want to turn this over to Jim right away so we get going on the open mic. I'm going to come around for some names, and thank you all for having the courage to come here tonight. Period. Thank you.
All right. So we're ready. This is the open mic. So we're going to open up. There are two guests of Tyler Andretti here. And the first is Alex Tren.
So, I wrote this poem for my former teacher, Sister Anne. In this poem, I used lines from Robert Frost because that was her favorite poet. Sister Anne's life was not a pathless wood. She dedicated her life to God for the better good. Facing taste of desire, she kept her poise and unwavered she stood, never dreaming of going back and beginning over again. She was a teacher and one of the best, and she had a long way to go before she could rest. The life she lived was the barest, for she never hesitated to help and give. Though she did not deserve it, she fell ill and suffered greatly day after day. Yet every day she would remain faithful and pray. However, nothing gold and great could forever stay, and Sister could bear no more and went to heaven. But Sister took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
And we have Chelsea Hildebrand, who's selected something special to read. I call that curating.
I was going to say, after Alex's performance, I don't know. We'll see if I can get through. So I selected a poem from Rupi Kaur's book, Milk and Honey, titled To the Reader. Stay strong through your pain. Grow flowers from it. You have helped me grow flowers out of mine. So bloom beautifully, dangerously, loudly. Bloom softly. However you need, just bloom.
There, then we have a regular now, Mara Lindner.
Hi, everyone. Maybe I'm trying to escape the pain. Maybe I'm trying to find comfort. See, I didn't know how it would feel to lose you. Never to see you again. Our last conversation, face to face, in my head, renting space. I just want this pain to be gone. Will it ever end? I'm so numb to anything. You are what mattered. I'm ripped in two, my existence shattered. My sister from another mister, gone in a blink of an eye. Why'd you have to die? It doesn't matter to most. No one knew our sisterly bond. I keep you alive, sharing with strangers the memories, your life, the stories. I rave about your daughter, who you left behind to share with me, knowing we'd need each other. You paved the way to allow our bond to grow. I look at her and see you. Thank you for allowing me to have a chance to be a mother, to have a daughter. Although the route it took was not the way, we will meet again one day. I look at photos of me before the fateful day, the befores, the afters, the in-betweens, before, the during, the present, the past. I'm trying to make sense of the last. The last month, the last years, the last pining that left me in tears. All these that brought me to the exact place. I sit and ponder and wonder where I stand. Loss changes some for the better, some for the worst. I don't know where I am. I don't want to be unrecognizable. But this shift, I can't control. Thank you.
Next we have Ray Landry.
Okay. Hello. As a certified lunatic, I'd just like to call to attention that beautiful full moon of last night. I don't know how many of you saw it. My God, it was just absolutely tremendous. And also, I'd just like to mention that 11 days from now, or maybe it's 10, the spring equinox coming up, and I know all kinds of celebrations go on all over the place, but it's really, this movement of the earth stuff is pretty deep, pretty touching. And actually, as some of you know here, I lived in Japan for 5 years in ancient times. And in Japan, believe it or not, the equinoxes and the solstices are national holidays. I don't know, in the past few months I've read angry political poems, and I've read all funky spiritual kind of poems and all kinds of crazy things. But tonight I'd like to really kind of stay with the season for a bit. Really, I know it's a little bit early, it's not spring yet, but wasn't yesterday unbelievable? Really, I mean, that was a warm, late April day in the middle of March. I'm going to read 4 very short poems. The longest of the one is 4 lines, written by other people. So please hold your applause. Let me just read all 4 of them, so you'll get a flavor of what real poets can do with this. And then after that, I would like to share one of my own. Okay, this is Percy Shelley. And spring arose on the garden fair, like the spirit of love felt everywhere. And each flower and herb on earth's dark breast rose from the dreams of its wintry rest. Oh, that is so beautiful. And here's Emily Dickinson. A light exists in spring, not present on the year, at any other period when March is scarcely here. And here's Henry Van Dyke, whom I never heard of until I came across this. The first day of spring is one thing, and the first spring day is another. The difference between them is sometimes as great as a month. And then finally, Doug Larson, spring is when you feel like whistling, even with a shoe full of slush. Okay. Yeah, really, really great stuff. Okay, so now when I get to my own here, the poem I'm going to read is entitled Mid-March in Inubozaki. And when I was in Japan in 2017, I really got to this place called Inubozaki, and it was a good experience. Just a little bit by way of introduction, and I'll read the poem. Oh, by the way, I'm really kind of glad. I stopped going to Japan 3 years ago. I've been several times this year, I think 17 times this century, mostly taking groups on exchange programs. But anyway, last time I was there, yes, I got to, to Inubozaki. Oh, and by the way, with that very warm day yesterday, I said, I've got to read this poem tomorrow, even if I'm the only one that really listens to it. But in the Tokyo area, the weather is warmer than here. It's approximately like the weather in North Carolina. This place is only about an hour from Tokyo, and I don't know, the names are just fascinating. Not that I know about as much Japanese to survive, okay? But the Inubozaki is the name of this place, and Inu is a dog, and Bo is the barking of the dog. And Zaki is like a riverbank, in this case an ocean bank. It's right along the ocean, just an hour from Tokyo on a very, very good, nice train. And just one more thing. The second line, I use the word green to start it. In the Japanese language, green is midori, and that's how they use that one word to describe everything coming to life in springtime. You know, like we have a word for the, for autumn, for the leaves changing. I forget the word. I can't speak English or any other language. I can just pretend. But anyway, the foliage, the foliage. But in the spring, just the word green, midori, green, says it. Okay, here we are. Mid-March in Inubozaki. Plum blossoms fading, green at peak. Cold wind, warm sun. Morning shivering, noon basking. Frantic Tokyo far behind. Blend of traditional and contemporary structures. Slopes and hills abound, rush hour a distant memory. Eastward Pacific view, fishing boats departing, cargo ships in offing. Next crop planting cycle already started, quilts airing, oranges hanging. Gift to denizens of world's most fast-paced metropolis. Universal blessings. Okay.
And we have Mark Bohr.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to hear these young voices, and so good to see young people get up and speak, because honestly, I think it gets you on a path to being confident in yourself and finding your own voice as you go forward. Wonderful thing. Something I think it took me until I was 35 or 40 to have confidence in my own voice. A little advertisement first. So we're at the beginning in North Andover of having this thing called Pop-Up Poetry that I'm doing. And it's short poetry events at local businesses. And we had the first one this past Saturday, and we have one for each of the next following 4 weeks. So this coming week, we're at Good Day Cafe in the East Mill on High Street in North Andover. Come out. It's about an hour, probably less. And come out, read a poem, and have some fun. And we're getting out to these different places in North Andover and Andover. We're going to be at Good Day Cafe. We're going to be at Golden Seal Apothecary the week after that. We're going to be at the YMCA, Andover, North Andover YMCA the week after that. And then the final one is Bikram Yoga on a Friday night. So if you want to do some yoga and poetry the same night, you can do that. And so kind of looking back at the first one, we were at Bulger Veterinary Hospital, which was great because a bunch of people did poems about dogs and animals. Not everyone, different things. What was great, though, I have to get this posted on Facebook. A family came and they did a family poem. It was sort of cross between a rap and a song and a poem. And they have this Newfoundland, that's their family dog, which probably weighs more than I do. And the dog was up there keeping time, wrapping its tail on the microphone stand in time to the poem. It was awesome. Yeah.
Was Jimmy behind the string?
No. So much fun. So looking back, I wrote a limerick for that night, that afternoon rather, and I'm going to read another one for this coming week. However, this week's I haven't written yet, so I have to read last week's. So this is what I wrote for Bulger Veterinary. I could start by barking in doggerel, or perhaps try talking in caterwaul. I could sing out my words in the language of birds, but I shall never, ever speak in marsupial. Your life is complete with a limerick. And then I wanted to read, I've been enjoying the poetry of Ross Gay. He wrote a really neat book that I found. It's a couple of years old now. It's called The Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude. And I can't read that poem because it's 3 pages like this for the whole poem, a little long. So I picked a shorter one, and here we go. A small needful fact is that Eric Garner worked for some time for the Parks and Rec Horticultural Department, which means perhaps that with his very large hands, perhaps, in all likelihood, he put gently into the earth some plants which most likely, some of them, in all likelihood, continue to grow, continue to do what such plants do, like house and feed small and necessary creatures, like being pleasant to touch and smell, like converting sunlight into food, like making it easier for us to breathe. Thank you.
Good job, man.
I said, just throw in one more. So it's summer now, temporarily in New England, but New England is never the same year twice. So, but I usually do this poem in the cold of late winter. I'm imagining I'm snowbound in this cottage in Siberia, in the wasteland. So, to Tanya. Dunes, little Tanya, are a distant notion where we are. we would need to ride the rails and waves and walk the dust to get there. If we went there, do you think we would be any more lost to the world than we are now? Ours is the aridity of waste, the endless sponge we fill with our naive confessions, with our wind-scattered eloquence. Go to the window, child song. The dunes of winter carry tales, as well as the desert, dear Tanya. And if we speak to them together, perhaps they'll bring us passage over the world's waves and sands. And any of them will tell you in their soft and ominous way that on the way from one place to another, you will need imagination to fill the voids between. So we got like a last call. Anyone want to throw in one more? Huh? Oh, Mark? What? Yes, I'm sorry. I missed your line. It's Nini Sanchez. I do that near the end of the list.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say thank you for coming in memory of my mom. I appreciate everybody who came. So at first, I'm going to read the poem that my mom had written, and it was from 2003. Being around you makes me sit and observe. I wonder about all the places you've been and all the things you've learned. I look at you, all the mystery you have inside, but your eyes don't lie. I know there's so much you try to hide. I can imagine all the times you've cried. There's such a gentle soul underneath it all, and it's not that I know you well to tell you these things. I do know you're human and that you've been through your share of heartbreak, so there are assumptions that I'm able to make. So what's it gonna take to get you to smile? Let me sit and just look at you for a little while. I see this handsome man with so many qualities. I don't think I could explain enough for you to understand, but I will tell you that the eyes are the window to the soul, and when you catch me looking at you, it's your gaze that I don't want to let go. I just thought maybe I would let you know. And then I'm going to read one that I wrote about my mom. Some days are easy to get through, but most days are hard. I go into my memory box just to read your cards about how much I've grown and how far I've come. Reading with your voice in my head is the closest I get to you. I miss our talks about life that helped me get through. Life has been so hard without you. Days like this, I look at your pictures and remember who I got my strength from. You never gave up. You put your feelings to the side, did what you did for us to survive. I'm surviving without you, and it's the hardest thing I've done. I hope you're watching over your grandson. I'll do everything to make you proud, even if you're looking at me from above the clouds.
So that is this month. What's next month? April? It should be interesting to see what things are like a month from now. So it was great to get this in today. Definitely. I went out and got my hair cut. Who knows whether I can get a haircut in a month.
Good job, Jim.
Anyway, it was great to hear all the students, all the ideas, old and new. So thanks, everybody.
All right.